Okay, so part one of my research. So, growing up, I lived with my father's parents. I didn't see my mom really at all, and I didn't really know anything about her family. I knew my grandfather was full-blooded Italian. I knew nothing about her mother at all. So, after getting in contact with my mom and having a relationship with her, I would ask her questions about the ancestry, and she just really didn't know. She knew her mother's parents' names, but that was about it. So she's been interested in what I find out for genealogy purposes. So unfortunately, her mother passed away before I had a chance to talk to her or meet her. So I really had nothing to go on. She didn't talk about her family at all. And so that was kind of a problem. Like, how do you do research with zero info? But I figured it out. So basically, I went ahead and I just started digging. And I was able to locate information on her parents. So I kept getting some really confusing information. I saw her dad married to one person, then married to another. So I had to figure out the ages and whose children belonged to who and all of that kind of thing. I did find out that my grandmother's mother died when she was about 3. And I was like, oh, that's horrible, but it's not uncommon for somebody to get married right away. But it also appeared from the paperwork that I saw that his follow-up wife had a child with him before the mom died. So I don't know if the mom was sick or if they knew she was going to die, or I don't know the story. And I don't know that anyone alive does either, because all of my grandmother's siblings have died, including my grandmother now. So if the children of them happen to have information, that's great, but I'm having trouble tracking them down as well. I've found the children of one of her brothers, right, as of this point. I have found a distant cousin, but of course he doesn't know anything directly about my grandmother's direct family. So that's where I'm at for that. Now, on my research, I did find out there's a little bit of a family wreath. And let me see how the best way I can actually pull up. Let's see. I'm going to pull up my genealogy tree because it's kind of tricky. So my grandmother's father it's taking a minute to load. But anyhow, so now the one thing I have found out since then, based on death certificates, is that the children all went into foster care. So, and they all grew up in foster care. The dad never took them back. So I don't know what the story is behind that, but I do know that it was definitely something that was painful. So, where we start having some interesting stuff is her parents. I'm not being able. It's so much harder to pull it up on my phone. But anyhow, her parents were, I think, second cousins or first cousins. A couple times removed. So that was interesting. They share a grandparent on the Smith side, Smith Andrews side. And so that was disturbing a little bit to me. But I was like, well, when I talked about someone's like, you don't understand, back then the towns were really small and, you know, cousins got married. Like, it's just how it was. It was the 30s, 20s, 30s, and that's just what happened. But yeah, so they were cousins. And so that was something I had to kind of, you know, deal with. I was interested. I heard a story about my grandmother a few generations back. She actually ended up, where I live in Alabama, she actually ended up living like 3 hours from where I'm at, and she's buried there somewhere. And actually, until she was in her 90s, used to ride around on a horse delivering babies. And her husband, who had passed away at that point, sometime before, was a doctor, so I'm sure she was used to helping deliver babies, and that was her thing. But yeah, into her 90s, she was riding horses delivering babies in Alabama. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so my grandmother's parents were siblings. That's probably why, if she knew, um, most of the siblings when they passed were listed as the child of their foster parents. Because I couldn't figure it out why I would say child of this, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's my grandmother's sibling, and their parents are this. And that's when I realized they were in foster care. And I did reach out to the state of North Carolina to find out, since they're all dead, is it possible to get records? And I kind of didn't get a response, so I'm guessing that's a no. But I'm still going to keep looking to see what I can find. But yeah, so I don't know if the siblings had any contact at all growing up. I believe they found each other as adults, but I don't think there was a whole bunch of contact in the meantime. And it also appears they were also each put in different houses. So I'm sure it's part of why my grandmother didn't talk about her family is because she didn't know them. She didn't know her history. She didn't know any of that. And back then, if you didn't have contact, you didn't know. And then the fact that the one genetic website shows my Native American, we knew we had Native American, and I've kind of found it, but I have to prove it in my DNA or, in my ancestry. So I have a relative who was born in a town called Chuckatuck, Virginia, and it says Nansemond after it, which during my research, she was born in 1610. That is near Jamestown Settlement, but it is not Jamestown Settlement. It is actually where the Nansemond Indians lived. Now, I've run through, I contacted the Indian tribe to see if they had any record. They told me there is a person with that last name in Jamestown. So, here's the thing I do know, is even up till 1611, the Nansemond Indians and the Jamestown people were not getting along. Like, literally, the Jamestown people were going up to the Nansemond Indians' land and burning down their houses. It was not a good situation. So this is what I can guarantee you. A couple of possibilities. One, somehow they kidnapped a pregnant woman from Jamestown Settlement, and she had her baby at the tribe, and maybe they felt some sort of mercy on her because she was pregnant and had a baby, and then they returned her. Possible. I've also done some research that said it's quite possible that when she married a white man, she took on a name that was a white person's name. The issue is verifying that information and whether or not I can find records from the 1620s that shows she had a name change. So I'm hoping that by traveling into that area that I might be able to locate a birth certificate, like a baptismal record that may show her birth name and then her baptismal name, because that may have been how she changed her name. So I'm doing a lot of research on this because I would love to find out if she is Native American, because she's exactly right. For what I have for Native American DNA, this generationally is the perfect person to be Native American. And I would love to learn more about the tribe. I've always been very drawn to Native American tribes and their traditions and their background, and learning about their beliefs. And maybe because I was raised around people who were full Native American or pretty close to. A really good family friend growing up was half Mohegan. If you're familiar with Connecticut at all, you've heard of Mohegan Sun. That tribe, he was half Mohegan. And I met Tantaquidgeon, I think is her name, back years and years ago when I was small. So I've had interactions with a lot of Native American tribal people over the years. So it's always been something that's interested me, so I would love to learn more if that is my heritage about it, but I need to verify that it's my heritage before I really kind of get all in on it. Luckily, it is a tribe that is, if you can prove genealogy is allowing people to join. So I'm excited about that because that would become an annual pilgrimage to go to their powwow for me. So I'm looking forward to finding that information out. I'm hoping I can find the information. But everything I'm seeing shows that basically it is most likely that she would have changed her name to an English name before or at the time she got married. And probably before, probably a white couple would have kind of agreed to help her, become a Christian and all that kind of thing, and reform her, and then baptize her with the white name and whatever, which I don't agree with, but that's, it is what it was. And so we're looking into that. It's something I need to travel to North Carolina to find out. I also need to travel to Wells, Maine, and find out about my family up there. I believe I found my Jewish relative because I have a relative up there named Hadassah. Her name was Hadassah Boston. But Hadassah is a very Jewish name, but she may not be Jewish, but it would be. But I think there's more to my Jewish background than that. I feel strongly that my Jewish background comes from my Italian side, not this side, but it's possible. So we're going to look into Hadassah and her husband in Wells, Maine, who then moved to Boston, and they are Hiltons, so that'll be interesting to find out if they're part of the Hiltons. And apparently there's lots of information in Wells, Maine about the family. So I need to go to New England and find that information out. I want to go to New York and meet a cousin I found through Ancestry. I was able to use my genealogy background to find out who his dad was. He was born in Vietnam, right after the Vietnam War, during the Vietnam War. And so that's another story I can tell you guys another day. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I really want to meet him. He seems really amazing. And overall, I have a lot of really cool stories that I've found. I have pilgrims, settlers. I have people on the Quaker rolls. I've got lots of really cool people in my history, and learning about them is just kind of exciting. So I will go through some of my relatives of note on some of these, or just talk about the process that I use to find out information. They probably won't be all as long as this, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update on some of the really cool things I'll be talking about in the future, including why my grandparents were cousins. But it's whatever. It explains a lot. But anyhow, have a great day, and thank you so much. Bye.